Hey everybody, welcome back. Another nice wintry day. The snow is finally starting to melt out here a little bit, but I'm sure you can't tell with everything behind me. It looks pretty much like it hasn't gone much of anywhere, but still a beautiful day to get out here and enjoy some more winter weather. And today, I had mentioned in one of my other videos, I wanted to talk about our mental diet. Our mental diet that is so much more important than just our physical diet. And that might sound like a boring subject to some people, but I think it is the key to everything that's happening in our life is entirely determined by what we mentally consume. And our mental diet is a couple of different things. I've mentioned before, our environment is a huge deal. Who you hang around with is going to shape everything in your future, which is not everything about that is centered on that. There are other aspects to it too that we'll cover here. But who you hang around with is so utterly important. I've known a pastor and a few other different people that do different types of counseling and therapy and responsible ones that actually want you to take responsibility for yourself and have accountability, which you have to really look for that. If you're ever going to have a counselor or a therapist, do they care about those things? Are they people that really enforce that? There are many out there that are not enforcing that these days, which makes them, in my opinion, essentially useless. But when it comes to who you spend your time with, a quote that one of them gave me about this is they said, show me a person's friends and I will be able to tell you where they are going to be 10 years from now. Who you hang around and your environment that you put yourself in is going to massively shape who you become. So if you're looking to change things in your life, if you're looking to change things that you've not been happy with, that you're tired of, that you want those patterns to shift, you have to shift the way that your habits and the way that you program yourself in life. And that's entirely determined by your environment. And we'll get to this in a minute, but what you're taking in as your mental diet. Part of your mental diet, of course, is going to be who you're speaking to and what they're inputting into you. And are they treating your ears like they're trash cans? You know, they're just dumping all this crap in there. They're giving you advice that has never worked out for them. And the best way you can determine that with people that are dropping that type of advice into your life is take a look at the results it produces in their life, because words are cheap. Actions are really, when it comes down to it, the only thing that matters. You can claim whatever you want, but the proof is all in what your actions are and what they end up producing. What are the results? What's the proof? So if you take a look at this person's life that's going to drop advice into your life, and you determine, okay, it hasn't produced good things in your life, it hasn't produced good things in the lives of people around you, why would I follow that? And it's not where I want to go. So if that is not where you want to go, and it hasn't produced good results in other people's lives or the person who's dropping that advice into your life, then rather obvious thing that you need to get away from that individual and stop taking advice from them. Hence, the environment of people you surround yourself with needs to be people that are all going to be directing you towards a goal that you have. And your goals really can be determined by whether or not you are business oriented, you want a side hustle, you want to do something creative. You need to surround yourself with people that are positively going in those directions, and you take a look at their results and you're like, okay, this person is going where I want to go, and they're getting the results that I want to get, and they're seeing the personal, professional, creative change that I want to see. Go talk to those individuals. They're going to give you a roadmap to it because they've been there. You can't talk to somebody who's never been there and expect them to give you a roadmap to get somewhere that they've never been. I mean, it really kind of comes down to common sense and, just being sane about the whole subject, which if you're on this channel with me quite a bit, you're going to realize that those are kind of my favorite words there. Are you logical? Are you reasonable? Or is what you're saying actually sane? Is it something that you can really get a result out of, or are you just daydreaming? And when it comes down to that, you have to think about not just the people that are potentially inputting into your life that are negative and then maybe eventually changing them out for people that are positive, but there's going to be a transition period in between those two where it's going to feel like you're kind of in this, what I guess the term is no man's land, where you're in the middle, where you feel like you don't have anybody, you don't have anything, and who are you even, who are your people? Who are you even with? There will be a period of time very often, I know from myself and other people, where you felt fairly isolated. You felt like, I don't have anybody. I don't have anybody, and I don't really know who I can call and who I can lean on. That is not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing, because there can be a level of personal growth with that, a personal development with that, to where when you come out a lot stronger on the other end, you're much more ready for the people that will be coming into your life. And we'll talk about that here in a second, but it'll develop you. It's sort of like going through the desert to get to the other side and become a better version of yourself, a more responsible, a more accountable version, somebody who copes with life in ways that are not self-destructive, but you're developing those ways. You're becoming that other version of you. And as you begin to come out of that, you're going to start to seek out places where you can find these other people. I'll give you an example that might help you a little bit. Years ago, after a divorce that I had, I wanted to get back into some creativity with filmmaking. I had done some acting, a little bit of stuff with commercial work when I was younger, and a little bit of stuff involving modeling when I was much younger, and wanted to get into back into that, but I was more interested in not really commercial, but more independent stuff. Places where you can develop your ideas and your creativity. And I started looking up groups that had like filmmakers collaboratives, and joining in with those people and beginning to develop and create films. I learned how to start to understand cinematography a lot better, directing and everything, and the friendships and bonds I've made with that, many of which have lasted up to now. This was 8-10 years ago that I started doing this, and my move towards that direction brought in people into my life that were creative, they were driven. In many cases, a lot of them had their lives pretty well put together to where they weren't falling apart and they weren't coping with life in a bunch of negative ways. So it brought really great influences into my life for the most part. Choosing different groups of friends and avoiding people that basically drown their sorrows in alcohol on the weekend is a huge thing too. I've never had a problem with that issue personally, but I'm simply using it as an example. And then I guess to go on to the next point, something else that I've tried to lean heavily towards too is what you put in mentally as your diet every single day. And your mental diet is what you take in that you're watching, what you take in that you're listening to as far as music, what you take in as far as news, podcasts, other things like that. It really, really does shape who you are. Now, it's not that I'm saying it's not important to know about the negative stuff going on out there. You have to some degree, but you will begin to notice over time, as anybody would, the more you focus on all that negative stuff, the more you're going to realize exactly how it's affecting your attitude towards everything. It's important to know about it so that you can face and maybe even try to affect change whatever you can in your own personal life. But it gets to a point to where it just produces results like a depression, hopelessness, and sadness and frustration that you almost can't seem to overcome. So it's really, really important that if you're listening to music as well, that stuff that is, the lyrics are depressing, it's all about relationships never working out, it's all about all this miserable, the worst parts of life that you can possibly focus on, that will affect your mental outlook on everything. Your brain is literally, you're conditioning yourself to feel and think that way on a regular basis, and it's important to change that so that you begin to see the hope and the possibility in the things around you, because we all have that. We all have that. I mean, the people that you might look at that you see that are successful, they chose to surround themselves with things that made their life successful and better. They just chose to. They chose what they were going to program their brain with every single day. Like if you're listening to podcasts like this one that are encouraging you, saying, yes, you can change your mindset. Yes, you can change which way you're going. Yes, you can change all of these things. The more you do that, you're going to be surprised over time. You're going to start to think much more in that vein of, yes, I can actually change all of this, versus if you're around a bunch of people or listening to a bunch of sources that are telling you, no, you can't. It's always going to be this way. It's always going to be miserable. No, it's not. Now, nothing will ever be perfect, of course, in anything that you change, and I realize there will be detractors that say that. Nothing will ever be perfect, and they might even argue, well, why change anything if nothing is ever going to be completely perfect afterwards? There's no reason not to better yourself. There's no reason not to improve the situation that you're in. And you can have a very defeatist attitude, but the only way to break that defeatist attitude is to determine what are you taking in. So things that I would recommend to do that would be podcasts that build you up, podcasts that encourage you to be aware of this, and that when you listen to them, you come away from it thinking, I can actually accomplish some things that aren't going to destroy my life, but are going to take me in a much better direction and take it in the way that I would like to take it. Not just podcasts, music is a huge deal too. Take a look at what it is that you're taking in and listening to. There are obviously certain types of music out there that are going to encourage you to view physical intimacy. I have to use that phrase because there are certain words that I'm not allowed to use. YouTube will flag me. But that will encourage physical intimacy to be looked at as a cheap thing that you can just hedonistically and recreationally hand out to pretty much everybody, and that will destroy your life. That will destroy your relationships. That will destroy your ability to trust. Destroy your ability to be monogamous. If you program yourself with that and you listen to that all the time, you're probably going to think that way, and it's amazing to me that there are people that act shocked at hearing that information. They can't believe that if they program their brain a certain way and immerse themselves in a bad environment, they're just utterly shocked that they're getting bad results, as if there was any other thing that you could possibly get out of that but a bad result. I've even, one of the film shoots that I was on years ago, I remember somebody describing to me how they were, desperately trying to find a good guy, and it seems like all the good guys are gone. And she told several of us there on the set that she was basically hunting for guys at bars and in places where basically people hang out to drown their sorrows in alcohol, and seemed surprised that she kept ending up in relationships or situationships with alcoholics. I'm like, well, wouldn't that be a rather obvious thing, that you're hanging out in a place where they spend their weekend drowning their sorrows in that? You're shocked that they're alcoholics? I mean, to me that seemed to be rather obvious, but to her it was confusing. She just didn't understand that. So common sense goes a long way in all of this, and a lot of the things that I'm saying here are common sense, but over the years, maybe you, like myself, have begun to realize that it's something that you learn to articulate over time. You learn to identify, oh wow, that's why that's going wrong. I'm putting all this crap into myself mentally, and my outlook, my mental health, my ability to deal with depression, all of these things are being directly affected by it. I'm not even really addressing any of that, and then acting shocked that my results were not good. So I'm going to do some more videos following up on this, and I think that's probably it for today. So, as always, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know any other subjects or topics you want to cover. I'm starting to get some feedback from people telling me things they want to hear about, but I look forward to hearing from you all, and I thank you for joining me today. I'm going to get out here and do a little bit more hiking before it gets too much later in the day, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a good day.